Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of Mark, chapter 6, verse 34. And Jesus, when he came out, saw much people, and was moved with compassion toward them, because they were as sheep not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And I repeat that. And Jesus, when he came out, saw much people, and was moved with compassion towards them, because they were as sheep not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. Jesus had compassion for people, for everyone. He loved them. He saw their needs. He saw their suffering. He always wanted to help. He spent most of his time, all day, non-stop, just healing people. One right after another, one right after another. And he continued to do so while still having doubters, while still having Pharisees talk a lot of stuff to him, trying to trap him, try to throw his own law at him. That was nothing more than the devil trying to distract him, trying to discourage him, to keep him from doing the things that he was created to do. Much like you in your life, you're going to have all these distractions. You're going to have all these temptations to keep you from doing the very things that you was created to do. A lot of people say they want to be like Jesus. They wish they could have been one of the disciples and follow him. But a lot of people don't even begin to deny themselves every day. They think that they have picked up the cross, but they have not really picked up their cross. Because that is a daily thing. It's just nothing that you just do one time. Every day is going to be a battle. And for those that have done that, a lot of them just only care about themselves and just think that is it. Well, I'm denying myself and I'm reading my Bible and I'm saying my prayers and have a good relationship with God. But they treat other people poorly. They could care less. They're so focused on themselves and making sure everybody sees them and how their so-called relationship with God is almost gloating. It's almost boasting. They have totally not realized that nothing that they're doing is like Jesus. They got lost into self-pride because they think they are achieving this and achieving that. Oh, God must be so proud. Look at me. I memorized 250 something verses and all they care about, they have done nothing else for nobody else. A lot of people just seem to think that just giving to the poor is just something you just do on occasion, or help the needy is just something you might do here and there, or every holiday or every Thanksgiving, let's go and help out and volunteer at a soup kitchen, and every season we just take all of our stuff and go through the house and we donate it to the kids and just kind of leave it at that, and that's fine. But every day you are to treat others as if it was yourself. It clearly says in the scriptures that whatever you do to the poor, to the needy, you have done to me. So if you have mocked the homeless people, they need to get, that person, they was just on drugs and that person is an alcoholic. That has nothing to do. No. It says in the scriptures, the homeless and the poor and the widows and the fatherless, if you have done anything to them, you have done it to Jesus. It doesn't matter what their situation is, because God's not done. Their story is not done. Another reason why we are not to judge everybody else, because you don't know where they're at. You don't know where their journey is with where they're at with God. They could be in the wilderness, and God is teaching them and shaping them and forming them, and here you are judging them. That drug habit that could be in the midst of where they're going to be found and where they're going to be hit rock bottom and then come to God. You don't know their story and where they're at and what God has planned for them. So passing judgment on somebody when their story is not over is wrong. It says in the scriptures, do not judge. It also says what? When Jesus comes, what's going to happen? We're going to face the day of what? Judgment. Once we die, then we face what? Judgment. So how is it that people on this earth, while they're living, think that it's okay to place judgment on others? The only time the scriptures ever talk about where it's okay to judge somebody is the ones that God had placed like the head of the tribes to solve crimes. And also, as also referring to, now because we don't have the 12 tribes running out in the wilderness, so now we have what? Court appointed law officials that is appointed judges. Not you just sitting here just randomly judging people. A lot of people have those scriptures twisted. They need to read the whole entire book to understand that it says multiple times over and over again that you should not judge, that you should have compassion. How can you judge people when you're supposed to have compassion for them? That's like hypocritical. So you can't do that. That's why you're not supposed to be placing judgment, because you can't have compassion for somebody if you're constantly judging them. It literally makes no sense. So how can they sit there and say that the scriptures say to judge people when you're supposed to be having compassion for them? You got to read the whole entire Bible. It's not this verse and take it all out, take it however you want to. You got to know the whole story, the beginning and the end. And a lot of people's story is not over. That's why the judgment is not coming until God places the judgment on them. That's why you cannot be judging them, because you don't know where they're at in their story. So when God tells you to sit there and have compassion on people, He's asking you to do the same thing that He did. He had compassion for everybody. The sick, the disabled, the homeless, the needy, the children. So you're supposed to have that same kind of compassion for everybody else. You got to be able to understand their side of the story. You got to see where they're coming from. And because you don't know these things, therefore you cannot place judgment on somebody and say, oh, they don't deserve this and they can't have that, or that person doesn't need help because if I go help them, he's just probably going to go spend it back on drugs or go spend it back on alcohol or blah, 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 and this and that. If they go and do that, they will be held responsible. They have to answer to God. So you can't say, I'm not going to give this person money because I know exactly what they're going to go do with it, because you think they're going to go spend drugs and money. That's something that they have to answer to God. But you give it anyway and leave the rest to God. It's not you to judge what they're going to do. It is you to help, though, because God asked you to. He called you to. So you got to remember, have compassion. You don't understand. It could be freezing cold, and if they was to sit there and buy that bottle of liquor, that's going to warm them up. That's probably going to be their only heat and warmth that they're going to have for the night. Plus, it fills up their belly so they don't have to worry about food. You don't understand. God uses all evil for good. So just because you don't have the full knowledge and the wisdom of it, doesn't mean that you cannot still help them in need. You got to have compassion. You got to have love. What would Jesus do? Not what would you do. What do you think? Because your thoughts are not like Jesus. So it's what would Jesus do? How would he would act and how would he would treat those people? Not what would you do.